right.
Are you gonna do the intro?
The intro. Like, saying.
I guess I'll do it. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Hello.
Welcome to the Fuckstick and Fuckwad podcast. Make sure you hit the bell, ring the notification, and let's jump into it. John, over to you.
Particulars are not the same thing as substances.
True.
This is the start of the chapter 3 of logical atomism. The main difference being that, well, I guess there's really two, but the one he explicitly talks about when he's talking about the difference is that particulars do not have persistence through time. They're not quite an instant, like a tiny instant, or like a, imperceptibly tiny instant of time, but they're just a short amount of time, which is it's kind of like very whimsical of him to say it this way. It's just a short time. Just whatever a short time means to you, it's a short time. There is, I guess, the other difference between substances and predicates is that, substances and particulars, is that substances kind of adhere to the old logic, which then generates, substances, at least so in Russell's view, it seems that logic is the more fundamental, structure, or founding of philosophy, and that metaphysics comes out of the logic of the philosophy. So in classic philosophy, the fundamental logic was subjects and predicates. So, and that's, I guess, to him, that kind of ended up causing the concept of a substance that is independent of human mind and persistent through time, and it retains predicates, whereas he kind of is I guess wants to talk about more things like relations, triadic relations, tetradic relations, which I think is 5. I don't remember. Anyways, that's the other difference between. Yep. What were you gonna say?
Oh, yeah, and just after that, he goes into, to understand red, for instance, it is to understand what is meant to be said. By saying that a thing is red, and then he kind of compares it to, this is red versus things being red, or everything is red, or red is the predicate, and then you must have red in inverted commas, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, I'm following.
Yeah. So the components of, you have particulars that you have to be acquainted with, but then to understand a predicate, what kind of slightly bothers me is that, he said a difference between predicates or relations versus particulars is that you have to be familiar with the structure of a proposition to understand predicates. It's to understand red is you also have to understand that something can be red, that something is red.
What do you mean? So to understand something, you must understand it in another form, which is to be, or.
I think just saying being. So he did compare it to talking about what it means for being red, but really the meaning of being red is to some degree or another being a predicate. Just that you fit into a preposition in a particular way.
So if a predicate is a sentence or a clause containing a verb, and then being would be a verb, right? I guess that technically makes sense, or am I losing the plot?
Wait, sorry, what?
So a predicate,
yeah,
by definition, contains a verb.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, being is a verb, we would call. It could be an adjective, right? But we would call it a verb. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Okay, so I guess what's your challenge with that?
Oh, you can also say, you can talk about being red. You can also talk about being Abraham Lincoln. I guess just what partly goes into and Abraham Lincoln is a name, and to some degree, I don't know if I want to call it a particular, but it is a name and it picks out a particular thing. So I guess it is a fucking.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you really added complexity. Let's use
Well,
something super simple.
okay, well, being a chair is also a language expression. It's with similar form of saying being red because you have the being in front of it and you have the thing that you're talking about. Um, but
Well, and to um, even further analogize, right? So red would be an attribute, right?
yeah,
In this example. So let's use another attribute. So being wet, right?
okay.
Um, to in place of chair.
Yeah, well, so like I mean, what part of the understanding being wet is understanding that it fits into a proposition in a certain way, which is that something is wet.
Mm-hmm. True.
Whereas I guess you don't. I guess what he's saying is you don't have to understand something like a chair. You don't have to understand to be acquainted with the particular. You don't have to understand that it fits into propositions in a certain way, namely being the subject of the proposition, such as the chair is wet. You don't have to understand that type or that the chair is anything at all. You could just be acquainted with chair. The chair. Blah.
Yeah. Fuck, we're on levels of like particulars, and not in his sense, but just in specificity that I don't. I'm not following the problem, or
It's not a
maybe I
problem.
wasn't listening. But
I'm not sure if there is a
oh,
problem.
okay.
I don't think there is.
Oh, okay.
Uh. Yep. He talked about that. He had this thing a little bit after that. Where I guess he talked about he's going to compare himself with some of his opponents, his predecessors, really. Which was that he was talking about how like some people thought that if you understood any one particular, you would understand the entire universe because to understand the particular in its fullness, you'd have to understand all the propositions that it's a part of, which since propositions are also imply being related to other propositions, and also you only understand those propositions by understanding their relation to other propositions. You would then, by understanding one particular thing, then have to understand, you would end up understanding the universe. But he says that it's silly. Well, not that it's silly, but I think he thinks it's silly. That you clearly do not need to understand or know all of the propositions that a particular is a part of to just be acquainted with the particular. Which is why people can, you know, fake you out, or that there's something as a facade or an actor, I guess. Like, or it's fucking anything. Like, somebody can lie to you for a while, and then you don't understand that they're actually like stealing your money, or like they're like, oh, I'm here to, fix your air conditioning, but they're also stealing your money at the same time. You're still acquainted with the person, but you don't know that the proposition Bill is stealing your money you don't know that proposition. You're not even really acquainted with it. But you're acquainted with Bill, who's, fixing your laundry machine or whatever appliance we care to talk about. But then at some point, you can come across the proposition that Bill is stealing your money, and you can understand that proposition. It's just that what's really more important is that you understand the particulars before you can even understand the propositions.
Yeah, I would have to, and I assume you also disagree with his conclusion or premise. I don't know which part it is, but like you said in your example, right? Yeah, I think you're disagreeing with his conclusion.
What are you saying his conclusion is?
You must understand that whole bracket.
He is saying that you don't have to understand all the propositions.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I thought it was the other way around. I would concur.
Yeah. No. Russell's saying, this is what my opponents believe. These, what I would assume are the...
It wouldn't be Wittgenstein, would it?
No. Wittgenstein is on the same team as Russell here. No. His opponents being the 19th century idealists, I'm assuming, or just fucking idealists in the historical sense, not the actual,
Yeah. Yeah. The philosophy of the current time in the contemporary space he's in.
Yeah. Basically post-Hegel people. like Bradley.
Those bitches.
Yep. And he calls it out specifically. He's opposing logical monism, which he has referenced before as being the philosophy of Hegel.
Well, and so I was going to say it really depends on what is the definition of understand, right? That's what is to understand something, to know all aspects of it, and to be able to explain its origin and all tentacles. Then yeah, I guess if we expand the word understand. But if you need if I need to know the hexacodes to know what the letter the color red is, then I would disagree. Obviously, that's what it's gonna It depends. Yeah, and I think he's smart enough, obviously, to have thought that through. So I'll take him at his point there. Sorry, I lost my notes. And it was only a couple lines. So
sure. So so with respect to your saying we want to understand the word understanding or grasp the meaning of it, which is one of those whatever. He says that the only thing you can understand is a symbol. Oh, he's kind of referencing along the lines of this Hegelian idealist nonsense. Idea is that we're trying to understand the universe, but he kind of says that's a little you can't that's not. So you don't actually understand. You don't understand. So along these lines, you don't actually understand a particular. You understand. You are acquainted with the particular, but you understand the sentence because you are acquainted.
It's like saying I understand the smallest thing ever. Your understanding is of something that is unknowable almost, by definition. Well, no, that's not really analogous, but I follow.
So I think kind of what he's trying to say is that, I think to a degree you can understand the universe as the universe is a word, so therefore it's a symbol. So to some degree, we can say whether we understand it or not.
If to understand is to know it exists as a word, then well, fuck me.
Not just that it exists as a word, but kind of to be to be. The problems that I think with the people like the logical monists are trying to say something greater than just saying, "Oh, the universe is a symbol," and we're gonna try to understand what it's connected to. To some degree, yes, we are acquainted with the universe a little bit because we're here. I guess the problem is
say they didn't understand the universe to use. We're segueing almost, but the section on what is it? Fuck me. The negatives. So would we say it's people who thought the God threw fire from the skies? Would we say they didn't understand the universe, but they believed in stars? Well, I don't know. Well, it's difficult.
I guess I want to because I also keep doing this is we can't say whether I think what Russell was saying right there is that you can't actually talk about understanding the universe in the way that people mean to be saying that because the universe, you don't understand because the universe here is a particular. It's not I think because they're trying to say that can you understand the particular that is the universe? I think is the question that they're really trying to go for. But really, the only way that understanding makes sense is to understand the symbol of the universe, which is different. I think the only thing you can understand about the universe is that the universe is just what's here and beyond. It's really I think as far as you can say that you are acquainted with the particular that is the universe. The problem
we should almost use a stand-in for understand, know the essence of or understand the definition, just so we don't get lost in traps.
Okay. So I'll read my. So the only thing you can understand is a symbol, which means to know what it stands for. So I guess when they say to be talking about do we understand the universe, really means to be saying do you know what the universe, the symbol, stands for?
Okay.
Which is kind of to a degree we do. Yeah, sure. I'm sitting here in the universe.
If I were to say that to another human, or if I were to look at most humans, do they understand the universe? I would use that exact way you said it just there from the book, right? I would say, do they understand the symbol that is the word the universe, because I wouldn't say have they been to Mars, right, or have they been to the outer rings of fucking the next I would just
Yeah.
say, do they understand it?
Yeah. So here, let me see if
That
there's
adds
anything
up.
else in there about the thing about the universe. I don't know where I was going with that. Uh, oh, I should like. Okay, it's a short paragraph. I should like to say about understanding.
What section?
This is my page 66. The paragraph literally. This is in chapter 3. But the paragraph starts. I should like to say about understanding. That phrase.
Just go ahead. Yeah, don't worry about it.
That phrase is often used mistakenly. People speak of understanding the universe and so on, but of course, the only thing you can really understand in the strict sense of the word is a symbol, and to understand a symbol is to know what it stands for. So he kind of like doesn't really. I think he could have talked more about that. I mean, obviously, but I think we can kind of try to talk about. What
he literally couldn't, because this is a lecture that was put into a book.
Yeah.
He literally couldn't talk more. It was just crazy to think about.
Yeah, he just kind of wanted to, I think, say what really the beginning of what he wants to say, and hopefully enough that we could kind of infer what he means to be saying. So what, like, I guess.
What does he have, like 40 books or something like that?
He has a lot of books.
Yeah.
What do you think he What do you think he means?
By which part?
About that whole paragraph. About what do you think he wants to be saying? Yeah, Russell. Like, what do you think he wants to be saying about the people who talk about understanding the universe?
I didn't. I was distracted, I guess. I don't have a conclusion from that.
Okay, I don't know. That's fine. So yeah. Also,
did you have a certain conclusion?
Not really.
What he thought.
I kind of already somewhat said what I think he's kind of getting to, maybe, which is that people are conflating the particular of the universe, which I actually don't think is a particular. It's totally something else. With the symbol.
What did you say? Concept or?
So he's only given hints towards this. I think it has a similar deal with like, so you gotta understand, like, the particular things is something that exists logically independent of anything else. It's kind of weird to talk about the universe, which is actually the collection of particulars. So it's not actually a particular. So it's somewhat similar. I think what he's going to eventually be talking about people, which is that they're like series of classes or something weird like that, which I don't really remember. Or
is there anything we couldn't call a series of of particulars?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like, well, obviously like,
that's a tough
I guess
one.
this chair,
I tried to think about it
to a degree, like this chair. I think,
but it's all, and everything isn't a gradient. I guess we would say is that because and kind of that goes back to the idea that there is no such thing as the true atom of language, right?
Well, I think anything you can point to and say this, anything you can name is a particular, which is annoying because we can name the universe. We're calling it the universe, but I think he's saying like anything you can kind of point to, go, this Kleenex box. I'm calling it the Kleenex box, and we're looking at it and we can talk about it. I could really call it
really
Bill.
Unsatisfying.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not very satisfying. Yep.
It doesn't. It feels like there's so many holes that could be poked in that, and it's almost like a shorthand. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. And I think a lot of people also probably saw something along those lines and are gonna try to, expand upon what he has to say or undermine some of it.
Yeah, if he's laying the groundwork, right, he's not gonna be able to, like when we read Kant and stuff, when somebody's laying the groundwork for something that hasn't been really, it isn't a point of view, giving them a pass on a couple shorthands I think is okay, or they'll expand on it later. But I'm not going to hold them to the fire for not having a completely sound logic out of the box from ground one.
Yeah. Okay.
I think negative facts are next.
Well, no, there's one thing. One thing that came before that, which is that he referenced back to a previous during a previous question in the Q&A where somebody asked him, well, can't you take all predicates and turn them into relations and just keep expanding them into higher order of relations? So I guess the example they were using is you could say that, the bird is red, but you can really say that what that really means is that, oh, here's some standard object, and we're going to say that its color happens to be red. And really when we're saying that the bird is red is to just say that it is related to the standard object in that they have the same color. So now we're just saying that the bird is related to the standard object by having the same color. And so now you've turned a predicate, just a monadic relation or a predicate, which is the bird is red, into a dyadic relation, which is the bird has the same color as the standard object. Yeah, and so
I'm gonna reveal a little bit of my lack of knowledge. I had to look up predicate, not because I don't know that those words exist and they have meaning, and I've learned them multiple times, but it just I think I stopped school at whatever 15 or whatever, and just got my high school certificate or whatever.
Oh, sure.
So
yeah.
a lot of this stuff. So when you ran through that with the dyadic predicate on the verb of it was word salad to my brain. When we talk about used a word dyadic, right, and then triadic, well, I would assume that's 2 and 3.
Yeah.
But that I just know the prefix.
Yeah, I mean you basically got it there. So you can kind of obviously okay. So a dyadic relation is just a relation that has 2 terms in it, such as I am next to you, or the bird is on the tree.
2 objects or 2 things or 2.
2 terms are related by a fucking relation. So you have the bird is on the tree.
John fucks his mom.
Yeah.
I don't know why he used John.
That's a great one. It's a really classic. So you have the bird and the tree, and is on is the relation, and those 2 things are related. And then you have a triadic relation, which gets kind of okay, I guess like the tree is between the rock and the house. So you have tree, rock, house, and one of them's in between them, the other 2 things.
Okay.
That's triadic. And then
makes sense.
I forget what 4 is, but I think you kind of get the point.
Quadratic.
Maybe. That sounds right. Although it also sounds a little bit like math. So
what you just saw there, where I just that's all of my education ever is just. I assume I'm just gonna go with that in my brain. Quadratic is now 4. That's all of my
it makes sense to me. I don't know what the 4th
I just
one
draw inference between everything in the world.
I mean, got quad, like a quadcopter. So yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And so basically he mostly just finds that it doesn't really mean it. Like, it doesn't seem logically or metaphysically significant to try to he's talking about this one guy. What's this? I don't remember his name. Royce, I think, who also did this, where he would try to I guess reduce all relations to a triadic relation for whatever reason. I guess he liked it or something. And I guess he also said, Russell said also that Berkeley and Hume did this when they tried to do that thing with colors, where they tried to get rid of the
instance which Royce gives an A gives B to C, so your relation requires that there minimum be 3. Those we call triadic, and there's requirements I think those we call triadic, and those which require 4 terms are called tetradic.
Oh, tetradic is the 4? Okay. Well,
and that's 6 and shapes, whatever. Fuck him.
But so, and then the other thing he does is he also kind of explains. I don't exactly know how important this. Okay. Okay. Um, so it's easy to reduce from an n adic relation to an n+1 adic relation. So from a monadic relation to a dyadic, or a dyadic to a triadic, by just shoving in some extra term. In the same, like that happened with the color thing. We had a monadic relation, which was just the bird is red, but then you can, in a way, if you want to, you can reduce it, quotes, hard quotes, to a dyadic relation, which is just to say that the bird has the same color as the standard object. And then you can, like, I guess you can go even, because then you have to go like, I don't know, but I think part of what he kind of wants to, I think maybe one thing he's addressing here again is the Bradley thing, where Bradley's like, well, everything, if you try to describe things by being, either like subjects and predicates or things with qualities, it's just an infinite regress, because well, how are the terms related to the relation? Well, now you have to have a relation that relates the terms to the relation, and then you just do that ad infinitum, and therefore it's absurd, and therefore it's not a good way of understanding reality. And so to some degree, I think he's also addressing that. But I guess I will say just this thing where he said, like, there are some cases where you can reduce in the opposite direction, like from a dyadic one to a monadic one, and he tries to do that with, I think, color. He said it would have to, if the relation, if the dyadic relation was with symmetric and transitive, you could make it monadic. Which, all right, I don't know.
Yeah.
Which mostly his like sort of explanation for it ended up not. Well, it kind of confused me a little bit, which is that it seemed more like it was going from triadic to dyadic than from dyadic to monadic. Anyway, I guess just to give you, an idea of what symmetrical and transitive means. So
symmetrical and transitive, good, yeah.
Yeah, so a symmetrical relation is just say that if A is related to B, then B is also related to A. So like, if I'm next to you...
If A then B, if B then A, or then B, yeah.
Well, the problem with that is that that's like a proposition. Prop logic, which is a little bit higher up. You can kind of do that, yeah.
I stay high. That's why.
But yeah, like,
Sorry.
if, like, I am next to you also imply, like, being next to is a symmetrical relation, because if I am next to you, then you are also next to me. We can infer that.
Oh, I see. I see that, and I'm picturing symmetry in my head, like artistic symmetry. If it's next to each, that's what makes it. You can't have something symmetric and equal, but the B is somewhere way over here and not aligned the same. Just
and so then an example of a asymmetric or non-symmetric, which I think I don't exactly remember. I think there is actually a technical difference between asymmetric and non-symmetric. I think this is what this is, which is to say that non-symmetric simply implies that just because A is I think asymmetric is to say that if A is related to B, then B is not related to A in that same way. So like, if A is less than B, then we can infer that we can't infer that B is also greater than A, because that's fucking silly. And so yeah, that's
silly.
That's asymmetric, and I think non-symmetric is just to say that we can't infer we
have no data, but we know they're not symmetric.
Well, no, I think non-symmetric just means that if A is related to B, then we don't know if B is related to A. Like to say that.
Oh.
No. I give you money. Like, it could be that you are also giving me money, but we don't know that.
Well, the true would be I take money from you.
Well, that's just. You just like the relation being.
I'm being difficult. Sorry.
Well, so if you take John gives money to Sasha, and now just from that we don't know if because it could be the case that Sasha gives money to John. That could be the case, but we don't know. Yeah. It's kind of a technical thing that's not super interesting. Oh, well, it kind of is, but mostly just symmetrical. So you get what symmetrical is, which is just to say that if A is related to B, then we can infer that B is related to A. And then transitive is if A is related to B and B is related to C, then A is related to C. Which is something like, if A is greater than B, and if A is greater than B and B is greater than C, then we can say that A is greater than C. Equality is an example of a symmetrical and transitive relation. So we can say that A is equal to B. We also know that, therefore, that B is equal to A. And then if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, we can also infer that A is equal to C. So, I mean, I guess what that ends up doing... So I'm trying to see why he's saying that if you can use a symmetric and transitive relation can get you down to a monadic relation.
Here it is here on the Stanford EDU. The period leading up to his own abandonment of idealism, Russell was already pursuing research, blah, 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 blah. However, he found that one category of relations, asymmetrical transitive relations, resisted any such reduction to the properties of the relata or the whole formed of them.
Yeah, relata are just,
these relations.
Relata are the things related. So they're
gotcha.
Like the terms. So like.
Interesting.
Like the bird and the tree are the relata.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we would like a class, like you said before. Almost.
I don't know about classes.
In the sentence.
About classes.
Okay, let's not open a can of worms. God forbid I venture out to like just add a word to the fucking lexicon.
All I know is he's talked about them in a particular situation, and that they're not particulars. So I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
Why?
Can of worms.
Oh, I just realized that. So you can so I am also videotaping my screen, which involves me videotaping this OBS screen recorder. So it's got this like infinite regrets. But I called my particular scene, which you can define like how you select the screen and stuff like that. I called it cum shot. So it's just
cute.
Yep.
So you are literally infinitely cum-shotting on...
on myself, yeah.
Well, it's about to get bigger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was a big nothing burger. Oh, wow. It's forever.
Ooh. Okay. Well, I'm done talking about fucking relations like this.
I'm not.
You're not? What do you want to say?
But that's later for me and your mother.
So funny.
Would well, I was wondering, so like there was the jump from, never mind, I'm not gonna try and fucking wade my hand into that fucking bee's nest of a topic that you were just bounding through that is dyadic and triadic. But so back to this sentence. Such reduction, get relations on the mind. Such reduction to the properties of the relata or the whole formed of them. These relations are especially important in mathematics. They're the sort that generate series. Consider the relations of being taller than, and consider the fact that Shaquille O'Neal is taller than Michael Jordan. It might be thought that this relation between O'Neal and Jordan is reduced to properties of each. O'Neal has a property of being 7'2", Jordan 6'6". Taller than relations in this case is reducible to their possession of these properties. The problem is, according to Russell, is that for this reduction to hold, there must be a certain relation between properties themselves. This relations would account for the ordering of the various height properties, putting the property of being 6'8" tall in between that of 7'2" and that of 6'6". This relation among properties would itself be an asymmetrical and transitive relationship. So analysis has not rid us of the need for these relations as ultimate, or making them ultimate. Another hypothesis would be their entity is as the whole composed of O'Neill and Jordan, and that the relationship between these two men is reducible to some property of this whole. Russell's complaint was, since the whole composed of O'Neill and Jordan is the same as the whole composed of Jordan and O'Neill. Oh, that's the same line twice. Difference would be O'Neill is taller than Jordan, Jordan being taller than him, as both would seem to be reduced to the same composite entity bearing the same qualities.
I don't know if I understood that still.
Well, I butchered the reading, so I don't blame you. Interesting. Okay, so negative facts, I think we're at.
Yeah. Yep.
Unless you got more before that.
Nope. I'm ready to talk about negative facts.
Are there negative facts?
I was reading that same thing.
Yeah.
So you want to go over the, well, mostly Mr. Damos's objection or explanation that there are no negative facts, which is really
sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna hear you out.
No, go ahead.
I'm not gonna read it. If you
do you remember it, or do you want to?
No, this was the section I had the notes on.
No, I mean, sorry. Do you want to read it right now, or are you gonna do you got a little bit of notes on it or a memory on it?
Oh, well, I was just gonna say, yeah, you go ahead and read it though. I'm not gonna butcher another paragraph.
Oh, I don't want to read it, but I'll just say that there's 3 points that Mr. Damos has, and he has a solution. So he has presumably 3 arguments against the existence of negative facts, and then he has a solution to talk about negative propositions in a coherent way, I guess. So, although really, they're not all very interesting. Well, they're whatever. They don't seem quite addressed or connected entirely. So the point 1 is that the negative fact does not depend on a cognizer, which is a weird thing to say about, because that's with beliefs. I don't know. I don't really get why that was relevant. The point 2 was also just not an argument at all. It was just that he cannot believe in negative facts. They don't make sense to him, which is not really an argument. It's just a statement. And then point 3, where we first now start talking. I don't remember him talking about the present king of France before, but he talks about it here. That not is not a qualification of the predicate, which has to do with we can't talk about so. If we want to talk about the present, the sentence, the present king of France is bald, since we know that it's a false statement, now we have to negate, I guess, the predicate, and then say the present king of France is not bald. We have to say that is true, but it's still a false statement because there is no present king of France. So I guess there is at least a response on his part to point 3, which actually was not really. I don't really know what the deal is with point 3, because I don't even think I don't know. Point 3 wasn't that great. But anyway, the solution that Damos had was kind of interesting. Which is to say that a negative proposition is really just to say that there is a fact that is incompatible with that proposition. So, I don't know, my pants are not brown is really
and they're not on you.
Yeah, well, my pants are not brown is really just to say that my pants are gray, which is incompatible with the proposition that my pants are brown. And
Oh, okay, that makes so much more sense to me. Okay, wait, is it incorrectness? Is that
incompatible.
what? That's not what incompatibility is. What makes it?
Yeah,
Uh,
is so
that's interesting.
that's
That
Deimos'
opens
solution.
my brain up.
Now, Russell's response is actually very good, which I don't know how well. I feel like it's the kind of thing you read and you're like, I feel like I should have thought of this before he said it, but I didn't. Um,
Mm.
which is that uh, incompatibility has to is a truth function. Well, incompatibility is a certain way of relating propositions and not facts. So the problem with what Mr. Deimos' solution did is it conflated propositions and facts. And then you get the sentence, no two facts are incompatible. There's just two fucking facts. And they're like, oh, there's any whatever facts there are, that's just what's going on in the world. You don't have incompatible facts. There's just is a fact or there's just not a fact. Um,
Yeah, which obviously we can't argue with, and is wholly reasonable.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I would say, yeah, there was something kind of hit you between the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's how I pictured negative facts in my head, so that makes sense. And maybe that's why I didn't have as many notes as I powered through it and was doing something else or something, but rereading here. So the example, right, that was the kind of to chew on was the Socrates is not alive. It's really an objective fact in the same sense in which, or it is to assume that it is an objective fact in the same sense in which Socrates as a human is a fact. This theory of Deimos that I've been setting forth is his development of blah, 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 blah. Take negative facts as ultimate. You have a false positive proposition say Socrates is alive. It is false because of a fact in the real world. A thing cannot be false except because of a fact, so that you find it extremely difficult to say exactly what happened when you make a positive assertion that is false, and unless you can admit negative facts. And that kind of goes back to, right, you can't prove a negative, or like prove that you weren't home last night. Prove that you weren't home last night.
Yeah, like it gets
well,
that.
How can I prove that I wasn't home?
Yeah, it's
right?
hard to prove. Yeah, that is a notorious problem. Is in both math and logic, and in fucking law. Is proving the non.
Yeah, I know it. Insofar as debate in law, right, is the assertion of a negative brings about a lot of problems because you are now.
Well, so now that actually to some degree or another gives credence to Deimos' solution. To a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because at least we're okay. Well, somewhat it brings it back. So which is say like, oh well, I couldn't have been the one who murdered Bill because I was in California. You know, so like there's the proposition I killed Bill, but that or I did not kill Bill. And that really means to say that there's a proposition I killed Bill that is incompatible with the other proposition that I was in California.
Right, exactly. So an example, or another one would be like, you raped Billy,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't. Fuck, my brain just got fucking jumbled, but looking away. I have a million examples of these because they come up in debate a lot, right? So, like in a debate, somebody will say that. Good example. So, like, the Democrats stole the elections.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So
Awesome.
we agree,
That's definitely true.
and if yes, Perfect. Yes, facts. Hashtag facts. And if someone were to say there's lots of questions, I'm not saying I have facts. I'm just saying there are lots of interesting unknowns. And then some genius were to say, well, prove that they didn't rig the election.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fuck me. You know? Let's start with a conclusion and work backwards. Why don't we? You know? And that's how do I go about proving that, right? That's just a preposterous request.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, I don't know.
One thing I really like is Notre Dame. I've found shows up on Google a lot for a lot of this philosophy stuff, and they've been pretty good. They'll usually take like they'll kind of bullet point the topics, right? So here they've got right after conjunctions and disjunctions, they've got negative facts here. Kind of like a study guide or something, I don't know, or their version of it. Logical operation. So you might think that they're a line of argument generalized to all complex sentences, which are formed by logical operations from atomic sentences, but maybe no such sentences require a special class of facts, since their truth can be explained in terms of atomic sentences which they are composed, which they are composed. Russell noted, though negative negations pose problems which conjunctions and disjunctions do not. Among the basic elements of reality are not only atomic facts, but also negative facts. So it is not the case that snow is red. This sentence is true, hence by the principle connecting language and reality is its truth must be explained by some class of facts. But what class of facts can explain its truth? Maybe the atomic fact corresponding to the snow is red, but this is not a fact. As Russell says, it's obvious that there is not a dualism of true facts and false facts. There are only just facts. And then to finish it off, an intuition here is that if you listed all the atomic facts in the world, that would not determine whether the above negation is true, but it is true. And its truth must be explained in terms of facts. Hence, its truth requires there to be negative facts as well as atomic facts. So that kind of goes back to what you said, right? You have to be able to prop logic your way to that fact, essentially, in my brain, without... I shouldn't have used prop logic, but you have to walk your way with positives to a fact, because if you walk your way there with negatives, you're not going to be able to trace your steps back with any sort of...
I guess I do think that there is... I mean, I think he is saying that there are negative facts, so it is possible to get to a negative fact, I guess, directly, with a, I guess a negative proposition. But it seems like it's kind of weird that he's saying here that if you list all the atomic facts in the world, that would not determine whether the above negation is true, but its truth must be explained in terms of facts, as its truth requires there to be negative facts as well as atomic facts. This is odd. Which it's weird to me to be saying that an intuition here is that if you list all the atomic facts, that would not determine whether the above negation is true. Okay, so I think the first sentence here is saying, oh, some people think that if you list all the atomic facts in the world, that would not determine whether the negative proposition is true, that you would have to go through, this incompatibility, whatever, or something else or other that would get you to a positive fact. But now, however, what I think is true, which is, but it is true, and its truth must be explained in terms of facts. I think that's kind of what he's saying there, or what they're saying.
What was your... I don't want to say point to be
just saying that the first sentence...
What were you getting at?
the first sentence there in intuition here is that if you listen, that first sentence is just saying an intuition that some non-Russellian people think is that if you list all the atomic facts in the world, you would not be able to determine whether the above negation is true. You would have to do some you'd have to turn your facts into propositions and do some prop logic to reach the negative proposition to determine that that proposition is true. But as Russell thinks, its truth must be explained in terms of facts. Hence, its truth requires there to be a negative facts. You get what I'm saying?
I would say that the first half I agreed with, and my brain turned off for the second half.
I guess what I'm saying is that the two sentences there are not two thoughts along the same line of thinking. They're opposed to each other.
Okay, that does make sense. I don't know what's going on with my brain today. My brain's bouncing all over the walls.
That's fine.
Let's see here.
We can also wrap up pretty soon if you
Yeah, you keep asking me questions. Like I'm following the conversation. It's not like I'm bored or anything.
Yeah.
But as far as conclusions and following, don't hit me with. So, what are your thoughts on that? Or would you concur, Doctor?
Okay. I mean, if you have thoughts, have them. If you don't, that's fine.
Don't ask me any questions, JP. I'm frightened of our big audience here. A lot of people.
Yeah,
listening.
we got. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure with this audience.
You're laying it on thick. I think I even went into some of. When does it? Yeah, and then there's chapter 4, which I went into some of, but I might have just powered through. But yeah, no, I don't have any further thoughts on the negative facts.
All right. Yeah, I don't really have. I guess much else, but yeah, I don't.
I think it's pretty linear there.
Yep.
I wonder what else Notre Dame says on like earlier sections that I didn't have this paper for. So the aims of logical atomism, correspondence between language and the world. Go ahead.
So, for whatever reason, there's like a summary of this book or
It's basically what I just said. Yeah, about the Notre Dame thing. There's like study guides and
such. So at the end of whatever I have, there's like I guess you could actually call it that Russell wrote an introduction himself, but it's at the end of the book because I guess it was written 8 years later or something. I'm just gonna read the first paragraph of it because it brings up what we were talking about the other day about realism.
Yeah. Do it.
The philosophy which I advocate is generally regarded as a species of realism and accused of inconsistency because of the elements in it which seem contrary to that doctrine. For my part, I do not regard the issue between realists and their opponents as a fundamental one. I could alter my view on this issue without changing my mind as to any of the doctrines upon which I lay stress to. I hold that logic is what is fundamental in philosophy, and that schools should be characterized rather by their logic than by their metaphysic. My own logic is atomic, and it is this aspect upon which I should wish to lay stress. Therefore, I prefer to describe my philosophy as logical atomism, rather than as realism, whether with or without some prefixed adjective. So, yeah.
Thanks.
So he doesn't really claim to be exactly a realist. I guess to a degree he is, but I guess it doesn't quite fit in with any, at that point, traditional sense of realism.
Yeah, and I'm curious what they say here in the Notre Dame thing about the like you said, the realism and such. Furthermore, clear that facts are distinct from objects. The reality of facts. This should be it. Okay, but Russell thinks that nonetheless the inventory of the basic elements of reality must include facts in addition to objects. Why? blah. The fact that objects do not, by themselves, make any statement true or false indicates that objects are not at all that there is to the world. For one thing that we know about the world is such that certain sentences are true, like the snow is white. What Russell is pointing out that if we give a list of objects that exist, material objects, properties, relations, and so on, we will have a number of items relevant to our sentence on that list. Some material instances of snow, the property of the snow, but just from the facts that objects exist, can we know whether or not our sentence is true? Russell thinks not. We also need to know that how those objects are combined. In particular, we need to know which objects have which properties. And blah, 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 they didn't tell me. And then yeah, that was it. Okay. Yeah, that was easy enough. Wait. Oh, this is the same thing.
Is it just with a hyperlink? Is it HTML version instead of like PDF?
Yeah, I guess. Send state object. So, I was really excited by the next couple sections that we're on here. Wait. Right after negative facts are the idea of logical construction, sense data, universals, more relations, material objects. Material objects is like a good bit. So we're gonna start wading our feet deeper into this the nature of the mind.
Yeah, there's some later stuff in here that looks pretty wild that I never got. Excursus into metaphysics. What there is.
Ooh, new word.
Yeah, hold up. Let me get something off my shelf real quick. Yeah, so there's a book I got. I never really read it. That's not actually really a book, I guess I should say, but it's called Metaphysics. God damn it, Mysticism and Logic and Other Essays by Bertrand Russell. So, obviously, there's one called Mysticism and Logic, which is about 20 pages. The Place of Science in a Liberal Education, A Free Man's Worship, The Study of Mathematics, Mathematics and Metaphysics, On Scientific Method in Philosophy, The Ultimate Constituents of Matter, The Relation of Sense Data to Physics, On the Notion of Cause. And I forget why I bought this, except that it kind of sounded cool.
How many books would you say you have?
More than I've read.
Fair enough.
At least in terms of philosophy. I have, I guess I'd say a shelf and a half. Or if we're talking about just philosophy, I have a shelf and a half of philosophy books. I might have a bunch of other books and other nonsense.
So is that like 5 books?
No.
I'm laughing at I'm making fun of the length of some of the philosophy you've read, not your bookshelf size.
Oh, and that they're really fucking big. Okay, I see what you're saying.
That was a stretch of a joke. Yeah, I know. Like, what are you trying to say, bud?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I have tiny shelves. What
hey, man, my shelf is fucking long as fuck, bitch. What are you saying?
No, I don't know. Yeah, a lot of them are like, it's either stuff that I like picked up and like read some of it, or there's a decent amount. There was a fucking summer where I was kind of going crazy, and I was like, oh, I could just speed read everything, and I'll like get it through osmosis, even if I don't really understand it. So I had my whole parents' dinner, like the dining table, just covered in books. And I still have some of them. Some of them I've never even opened. I just have them still. I acquired them. Like I have this series of lectures from a conference in phenomenology I have 3 books that I've like maybe opened them once. I don't know. I have a lot of crap that I haven't read. And also a decent amount of stuff that I've only read part of. It's still fun having.
Are you? Yeah, we've all got our little things. What do I collect? Or what did I collect when I was a child? Because you're childlike.
Ah.
No.
Childlike in my wonder. I have such wonder. But no.
That's a great way to spin
Yeah.
an insult. Thanks. I like to think of myself that way. Yes. No. I even forgot what we were talking about.
I don't know. Well, I'm gonna close this off now because we're just kind of petering off.
Yeah, I might say a fucking identifiable information.
Yeah. All right. Goodbye, internet.
You don't include my name in anything, do you?
No. Except for that one episode, I still need to review. That we might have said it. I might have said your name.
Yeah, it's not like in the description or anything.
No, not at all. The description is really just like what we read. Is all that amounts to. Anyway.
Fair enough. How many views do you get?
I think I have 0. I think that I have 1 view, which is my girlfriend's. She listened to one of them one
Cute.
time. Yeah. Anyway, stop recording.